Hey there, and welcome to the Dynamics Hot Dish Podcast, serving up stories and knowledge on Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform. This is What's Hot in Dynamics. You're now joining Merlin Schweiger, Liz McGlennon, and Ashley Steiner. All right.
Okay.
Ashley, tell us your story.
Okay, I have such a fun story to tell you guys. So my sister came to visit a few weeks ago, and she still wears masks like everywhere. You know, we go outside, we stay inside. Super cool. And for her birthday, I had bought her these. You guys know who Charlie Barons is? Like the Manitowoc Minute guy. He's a Midwestern. Okay, first of all, now you guys need to Google Charlie Barons. He does the Manitowoc Minute, which is basically like a fake newspaper on like Midwestern news, like how Midwesterners, like he's the one who came up with like the Midwestern goodbye and things like that. Like he's just hilarious.
I've seen that. That's funny.
Yeah. So he's just downright hilarious. And so anyway, so I'll send you guys some Charlie Barons stuff. And so he sells like merchandise. And so he obviously sold masks and like, you know, pretty typical Midwestern ones, like one says OPE on it, things like that. But I got my sister this one that says "Go Packers" and "F the Bears," but obviously it spells out what the F word would be. But like it says F and then it's like a little slice of cheese and then like a beer and then it says K. So like, you know what it says, but like, you know, it's a total Wisconsin thing to be like, you know, F the Bears anyways. And so she wore it when she was here and I took a picture and posted it like on my family, like shared album on iPhone. And my mom was like, "That's not okay." And I was like, and so I responded and was like, "Oh mom, I know it's super offensive because it says Go Packers," because my mom hates the Packers. And she did not find any of this funny. And literally texted my sister 10 minutes later and was like, "That mask is really offensive. You shouldn't wear it."
Wow.
Mind you, my sister and I are in our 30s. We haven't lived at home in a really long time. I just thought it was hilarious.
I mean, is she a Bears fan, your mom?
No.
Oh.
Is offended by the F word, obviously.
Yeah, she's 100% offended by the F word.
I'm just
On a mask.
clarifying.
Well, so I know like masks are controversial, but I never knew it was because of like what the masks said on them. Like my mom's like, it's offensive. I think it's hilarious, but
yeah, no.
So
sounds
what
like a
does
great
she
mask.
do if she's at a game and the chant is like F the other team? You know how they
My
chant
mom?
that? Yeah, like if she's at a
just this distasteful sportsmanship. Well, because like the Badgers have a cheer like that. They go like F you to one section and then they say eat. We're not swearing on this, so it's like doesn't make sense or it's not. I'll post a video in on our show notes of this in case
That's
people
fine.
want to watch the not safe for work video. So like, but my mom would just be like, "Oh, distasteful sportsmanship. That's just horrible."
So she's not much into the cuss words, I guess.
No.
Well, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with not wanting
No,
to
I
be
just think it's
swearing.
funny though. I think it's hilarious, like telling her 30-year-old daughters that it's offensive and she shouldn't be wearing it. I don't know. I thought it was funny.
You know, she raised you better than that to just be cussing all over the place.
You know what, Merlin? You've never met my mom, so
No. Nope. But
I love my mom. I should say at the end of this, like, oh my gosh, I love my mom. She's my best friend. We're really good on terms, and she listens to these. So I love you, mom. Like, whew. I don't want to like make mom mad, but I just thought it was a really funny
She
story.
made the podcast chit chat story.
Well, she did.
Yeah.
Wow. Now she's a mini celebrity. All right. So to the topic of the day, we're talking custom controls, and I am ready to learn. Ashley, I know this is the passion area that you really want to talk about custom controls. So why are custom controls so exciting?
Before we do that, I love that we're kicking off another podcast of Merlin not at all prepping or being prepared. So just have to call that out so we can use the make fun of Merlin hashtag when we post this.
Cool.
But yeah,
You know, when it's every time though, can we continue to make fun of it? It's just like the norm.
Wow.
He was prepared
guys.
last week, right? Last time he was good last time. He kicked
I
us
was
off.
prepared.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I don't think he was.
Anyway.
So I like custom controls because one of the biggest things I always hear from end users about Dynamics is that it's like just a big blank white screen. There's a ton of white space. And so what a custom control can do is like make it just a little bit prettier. Like they're always like, oh, I wish this could be red, or this title could be, you know, a different color, or there could be a bar here. And while you can't do all of that, some of it you can now do. But like a custom control is like a nice way to break up the white space and also just add like a little bit of creativity for how they can enter in the data that you're looking for. So that's the reason I like them, because it just makes things look a little prettier, which I know is like not a good reason to use it, but they're also really functional. There are a couple where I like use them immediately as soon as I grab hold of it.
What are your go-tos?
The editable grids is my number one. I know that I've talked to so many developers who are like, don't use it because of this and it doesn't do your functions, and I've never found a reason to not use them. And your salespeople will love it, or end users, right? Even like service people, marketing people. I mean, when I show the salespeople on my team that you can edit their like accounts or opportunities in a grid like Excel, they're just like, wow, that changed everything. Like that has changed the entire game.
I think it's so much faster to keep your records up to date, like especially leads and opportunities where you're constantly probably wanting to add stuff or change stuff. I think the editable grid is a game changer.
Well, I use it too as an admin. So like if there's stale data, like I have views set up for like, hey, this doesn't have like a city and state. So like I use the editable grids just to make sure that like our data stays, you know.
Yeah. And the editable grids in the new UI, like the deal manager that they're rolling out more in wave 2, are also supposed to be better, even better than the editable grids we've had in the past.
That might make it worth it to look at the deal manager. I haven't done that yet.
Yeah. I love editable grids too. What other ones do you use commonly?
The other one I use commonly is the input mask, because it will format your phone numbers and without coding. You know, so and you can add like a +1 in the front, or you can just do parentheses. Like you can identify how you want it formatted. It doesn't have to, it's not just one way. So especially if you're like a different country than the US, I mean, we're all US based, but I mean, obviously other countries have a different country code, right? That's what it's called. And so they have a different country code, and you can format it to that way. The downside of the input mask, I know we've talked about this before, is that it removes the click to call ability in the mobile app. But I think depending on like if your people use the mobile app or like the usage between the different systems, you have to just contemplate which one is like worse, you know, not being able to click to call or having formatted numbers. And for us, formatting numbers is more important.
I always consider using the mask on phone numbers. I'm curious if either of you ever used or thought about using it on a different field.
I've never even thought about it until
I haven't either. I was just curious, like if there was another use case for it.
I'm sure there would be if you had, you know, data that needed to be in a certain format for whatever reason.
Well, if you did like social security numbers, I know like just depending on how you use CRM, like if you needed any sort of code, I don't know if you could use it on anything other than numbers though, like a string of numbers.
Well, it's a text field. Yeah,
I don't know. But that's what I really like. Yeah, I also really like the calendar control.
Oh yeah.
Because when you go in and salespeople look at like their activities, they always say, I wish that I could see all of this on my Outlook calendar. And I'm like, cool, let's show you the calendar inside of Dynamics. So it's still not your Outlook calendar, but it'll show all your meetings. It'll show all your phone calls.
It shows all activities.
Everything on a calendar. So that's how I get around like when people say, oh, I want my phone calls on my calendar. And I'm like, cool, over here. And it does.
Question for you. Do you typically like give it to them through the left navigation or on like the form for a record?
I do both.
Okay.
I do both. Yeah. So I'll put it, on a form.
Yeah.
No, I do it on dashboard. Sorry. I've never thought to
you can put it in a tab.
Yeah. I guess I've never thought to do that. Yeah. I put it on the left side. Like I'll put like calendar, but then I'll also like on their like daily dashboard, you know, I'll put it on there as well, like in a smaller view.
Nice. Yeah. I like that one too.
Do you guys have any, or do you want me just to keep going on all the ones that I like?
I have one I can add in. So I like using, I call it the toggle, but I guess when I was researching, people call it the flip switch.
So it is the toggle now.
Okay.
The flip switch was deprecated in April.
Oh, good to know. Is there a difference, or is it just what they're calling it?
There's like a look, like a slightly different oval shaped look different to them, but I have no idea why they had to switch from this flip switch to the top. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I like those for yes, nos, especially if you have heavy mobile or tablet users, because I think they're more like touch friendly. So I like to use that one a lot.
I think even
Also
on the
feel like-
web, like it's just visually
Yeah.
like, yes.
Yeah.
No. Sorry.
I feel like the
Merlin.
toggle is good for like I like it a lot for situations where you want it to be very clear, like, okay, this is a yes, it is now like it is done. Like for something that's, I don't know, maybe like a point in time trigger or something, like now it is done. You could easily see that with the toggle.
Yeah, we
I
use
use the
it a
toggles.
lot. Yeah, we use it in like processes. So like checking if you've like sent
Mhm.
this stuff to the customer. Like we use it a lot in those kinds of situations so
Yeah,
that
exactly.
they can very visibly easily see that like they haven't done this step. I
Have
also
you
like
used the stars anywhere?
the star rating. Not currently, but I have like put it in before.
What was the
I
use
think you-
case?
So I do these things called ideal customer profiles, and so we use the star rating to like give the overall score of how they
Mhm.
meet the ideal customer profile. We can get more into that, a different topic, but it was like the culmination of like, okay, like we gave them this score for this and this score, you know what I mean? So it was looked like a score rather than just saying like, oh, they match at a 3. Oh, cool, I'll give them 3
Right.
stars for this. So that was the use case, and it actually worked really well and was like really bought in.
Nice.
Cool.
Mhm. I can't think of another way to use it. That was like, I had to think real creatively of like, okay, I want to use the star rating. I'm going to find a way to use the star rating.
Yeah, I feel like if you don't have some sort of rating or score or equivalent type of concept that you're tracking, like I don't know how the stars would work. I've not personally used them, but I wish I could.
And you could replace like your, customer ABC or, gold, platinum, silver with like just stars. Just put in some stars. Like it's a 3-star customer.
It's a 1-star customer. Hopefully they never see
Just-
that.
Hopefully they're
That's what
okay
I-
changing their business terminology like that.
Right.
So one I was super excited for when it came out, but haven't had the chance to use it, was the Kanban control. You could have like a
Okay.
Kanban board for a table. Have you either of you used that?
I've tested
No.
it like in a trial, but I've never like had a use case to actually use it.
No, I haven't either.
I see. So one that we use a lot is the business card reader.
Okay.
It's technically
Oh,
an
yeah.
AI builder.
Yeah.
Like people forget that is a custom control.
Is that was just
Um,
like on the top of the create contact, like quick
Yeah.
form? Yeah.
Yep. And technically you could use it on your desktop. Like if you had saved a picture to your desktop of the business card, you could
Who
load
does
the
that?
picture of it. So no, I'm just saying like in theory you could, but obviously the best use case for it is on mobile.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
just take a picture of the business card and it fills in all the information. The one downside to the business card that I've seen and salespeople always complain about is that it only creates the contact. It won't create the account for you. And so you still have to create the account and then you can use the business card scanner to create a contact, which is kind of a downside.
Or you use it to create a lead and then you just qualify the lead into both.
If you use leads, I could see that. But for a company that
use
doesn't
leads.
use leads,
Well, I can't help you then.
I know, right?
And how
Just-
does it work? Is it pretty good? Because I know business cards are all formatted differently. Does it work pretty well, or is there a lot
It's
of
pretty
like,
decent.
yeah,
I'd say 75%, like probably better rating than I'd give a lot of other Microsoft stuff.
Yeah, no, the AI does a pretty good job. I just demoed this not but a month ago, and like the business card that I had from the concrete guy that came to my house, like it did a pretty good job. Like it grabbed his name, he had like a nickname on his card, and so it like lumped that into either his first or his last name. And it guessed like he had like 2 different logos on the card, and it picked the wrong logo for the company name, but it did read the logo and translated it into a company name pretty well. So I don't know, I thought it did pretty well.
Yeah, what I always tell salespeople is because they're like, oh, I take the business card and then I write notes on it. Like, and I'm like, okay, well, think about how small a business card is. Like, how small are your notes? So I'm like, grab the business card, take a picture, and then there's like a description box right there. Type your notes in. Like,
Or
how
talk
much
your notes
easier?
in.
Yeah, or talk your notes in. Yeah, I was like, how much easier is that than like trying to like read a business card and like the font is like, an 8 or something. It's
Well,
crazy.
also
That-
like, where's the pen?
That's cool.
Somebody have a
I
pen?
wanted to ask, that makes me think of a control that I found that I have not used, but there's a pen input control where if you're using a stylus, your finger or whatever, like you can put that into a field. I have not
No,
tried
I
that at
didn't-
all, but it made me think of it.
I didn't know if that was for more than just signatures. Like I could see that really
Okay.
being used, like if you're delivering something or signing a quote or something. But I wondered, I saw it too, Liz. I didn't even know it existed. I wondered if you could like use it to take notes or like make a comment or something. I
Right.
wasn't
Like
sure.
especially if you're on a tablet with a stylus or like a laptop that does both, like I could see that being so like helpful for people that prefer that kind of not typing, but using a pen kind of feel.
Yeah.
And then does
do
it
like to take
actually
notes that way.
transform it to text like how OneNote does, or does it keep it in that format? I don't know.
I don't know.
Pretty sure
either.
it just holds it as an image.
That's
And
not as
I'm
cool
also
then.
I'm also not sure if you could get that control to be big enough, like
Hmm.
size
Take
wise, to like write a whole bunch of notes out.
So
Like,
it's
Well, so
really
then-
for a signature.
it's designed for a signature.
Oh, okay.
Well, see,
I think
this
I was
comes
hoping it would be
back-
better than
I'll say
that.
this comes back to Merlin's favorite Microsoft integration is using OneNote. So then you could use your OneNote to take those notes by hand and then have it translate and then integrate into Dynamics. So Merlin, another perfect reason to use OneNote.
Sure.
I was gonna say, I'm trying to think of like the other ones that I've used. I think we've talked about everyone that I've used, but there are like, there's a news control. So I know that like the inside view used to give you like, oh, connect to this company and show you the news. I thought that was really cool. Like when I saw it, it's like news control, like that's interesting. But so just like any time that company is mentioned in the news, it'll bring the article through Bing, of course. But what I loved about their example when I was researching it was Microsoft. I was like, well, of course, like Microsoft is going to be in the news all the time and have a bunch of stuff here. I think about the customers that we go after, like some of them are like really, really small, like 2-person companies, you know, because it's like a store down the street. I would love to see what kind of news would come in about them.
Yeah, I think that has to be for more enterprise, large businesses for it to be relevant, like if that's what you're selling to.
I agree, but like, you know, if you're using the same form for all of your salespeople, regardless, that could get really, that's, I guess, where the customization per sales team really comes in handy, because sometimes it would make sense for some and not for others.
If you have and like people selling to enterprise and people selling to small, A, they're probably gonna have different sales processes. B, you might want different forms than for them.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Build a new app.
Yeah. Speaking of apps, we haven't talked about the embedding a Canvas app as a control.
Yeah, that's intentional. I know nothing about it.
I've seen it done. I have not done it myself.
I was gonna say, likewise, I have seen it done. I have not actually done it myself, but I feel like I spent so many years as a consultant being like, oh, well, I can't put that on that page without like a custom page. Like, oh, now I need somebody to write an ASPX page that retrieves all this data and puts it in here, and you get web resources, or like that hot minute when Silverlight was a thing and you did it in Silverlight instead. And now, like, I don't need to call a developer anymore. I can just build a Canvas app that does this very specific thing that I wanted to do, and then I just surface that right up on the form, so it's right there. I think that's huge. Like, especially if you have a process where you need to update something in another system, or you need to like follow some sort of like complex relationship process that's really difficult to model out in a model-driven app, but really simple that you could do in a Canvas app. Like, you don't need a developer. You just build it on your Canvas app, just drop it right there on the form. Done.
I think the hardest part, I know this is not a conversation about Canvas apps, but this came up because I just attended a session on Canvas apps by a great consultant, Merlin, that you know. And I think the hardest thing about Canvas apps is coming up with a situation to use one. Like that was the consensus. We did this roundtable afterwards and everyone was like, yeah, I've always wanted to do a Canvas app, but I don't really know what example would be good to try to use one for. And I kind of feel the same way because like, well, because I mean, you have to sit down and think about like, what's going to actually be the most beneficial, what's, you know, and I think that maybe like what a Canvas app does, you know, confuses people. Like I've built a Canvas app and I'm still not like I feel very confident and comfortable with them. Like I think it's hard to come up with a business practice unless you have somebody who knows everything there is to know about Canvas apps. And it's like, right here, it would fit.
I can share the use case that I've seen that scenario used. So it was basically like embedding Excel spreadsheet type of functionality inside Dynamics. So a lot of data entry and a lot of calculations that wouldn't be as efficient to do within the model-driven app AI. So building that in a Canvas app and then embedding that on a form. I can send you a screenshot to Ashley, but that's the use case I've like seen personally for that scenario.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that need, then yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just coming up with that specific.
Yeah, I think it's really when the UI needs to be something different that it doesn't work in model-driven apps is the reason when you use one.
Right. Yeah, I think maybe one other example, I've been using the fundraising and engagement module accelerator that Microsoft released a fair amount lately, working with a lot of nonprofits. And they've got a handful of like custom HTML pages that sort of streamline data entry. So like if you want to do like a batch of donations, for example, you know, they've got this whole grid and you like add stuff to the grid. And then in the grid, you get different drop downs that are related data. And then after you save it all, you need to push all those in as individual transaction records. Well, they're in the accelerator, they're doing it all with, you know, code essentially. But I feel like this might become more complicated depending on how complex the data is, but you could do something very similar with a Canvas app where it's like, okay, I'm on a single page and I want to enter a bunch of related data, but the related data also has like lookup fields or drop-down values or like other things that I don't want to do like row by row, you know, like, okay, create a new one and then enter that in the quick form and then save and then click new again. And I just want to put it all into the grid really fast. You could use something like a Canvas app for that and then just save them all at the end and have it, you know, have a flow that runs after you click the save button that writes all those records back into their actual location in Dataverse.
See, I would never think of that.
Well,
It's just
now you have
know.
the ideas.
Now you know.
Do you have time for one more? Because I think there's one more.
I have one more too. So you go first.
You go
Ashley.
first.
Okay.
No,
you
go
sure?
first. Yeah.
Okay. I haven't used it, but I want to see if either of you have autocomplete for like a text field.
I have, yes.
Okay.
That was not my last one, but I'm glad you brought that up.
What did you use it for?
States.
Nice. That was the
yes.
scenario I immediately thought it was like state and country and not doing a lookup and doing that instead.
Yeah, because you can, because you just create like a related table and then it just auto completes. Because with a lookup, like it takes time to like look it up and whatever. But like the autocomplete, you can just type it in exactly how you want it, and then you could even track, like, because it's an entity, it's a separate table. You can track things on the form and things like that. I don't know. I think it's cool because they just type in and then just see all the matching options. Yeah, state is the only time I've ever used it because I was sick of people typing in like Wisconsin,
Whatever they want.
WI.
Yeah. Cool.
I like it.
Mhm.
What's your last one, Ashley?
My last one is the timer control. So I haven't used it. Have you, either of you? But I found it really cool, probably mostly in the cases world, like setting a deadline for like when you should, you know, have something done. And then it also shows you how much time has passed since you were supposed to have it completed. I can think of a million ways how I would love to use that internally, because I'd like do tickets for internally for Dynamics. I would love to use something like that. We don't use Dynamics for it though, but like I saw that and was like, oh, that could be a huge like,
yeah,
like
I think it's classic in like the service management kind of SLA world of like, what's your first response? What's your resolve by? Things like that. Yeah.
But I haven't used it. But I thought that was like, I was like, I might switch things over to Dynamics now for cases.
That's been around a long time.
I know it has.
Yeah.
I just never had a situation to use it. So
I'll see. Just overhaul the case process. Be like, all right.
All right, I have one last question here, Merlin.
Yeah.
What did you learn?
Oh, I learned a whole bunch of things. I learned about the autocomplete control. I didn't know that was a thing. I learned that Ashley doesn't know about Canvas apps. And I learned, I don't know, I felt like this was a very interesting learning engagement from me about various ways that these custom controls have been actively applied in the past. So thank you.
You're welcome, Merlin.
On that bombshell, we're up. Thank you for listening to the Dynamics Hot Dish podcast. For additional content and previous episodes, check out our website at dynamicshotdish.com, follow us on Twitter at dynamicshotdish, and subscribe to our podcast for notifications. Thanks. See you next time.